It's time to start our divisional preview series here on Verts. I am Harrison Graham. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Today, we're going to break down the AFC South and dive into the Texans, Colts, Jaguars, and the Tennessee Titans. Take a look at, I think, one of the more intriguing divisions entering the 2024 season. So we're going to get to that in just a moment. But if you want full breakdowns for all 32 teams in all 8 divisions, that is coming up here on Verts. We'll break down every single division while also covering the big storylines around the league, the latest news, big rumors that are out there, other NFL topics I want to discuss, plus some college football content as well. Hit the subscribe button. It's free. Let's have some fun here on Verts. Can the Houston Texans repeat as AFC South champions? That's where we kick off today's Verts episode. The Texans looking to win the division for a second straight year, and there's a lot of hype down in H-Town, and for good reason. And typically when there's hype around a team, it's because of the quarterback, and the Texans appear to have a really good one in C.J. Stroud. He, of course, won Rookie of the Year in 2023, ran away with the award, if we're being completely honest. And now I think 2024 for Stroud is about, A, can he do it again, and B, can we take that next step there and really establish himself as one of these top guys at the position. I projected with him a little bit in my top QB list breakdown. I think I had him number 7, which that's high praise. A lot of good quarterbacks in the NFL. If he builds off of last year and has another big-time year and is a threat in the playoffs, it's possible entering 2025 we view this guy as a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. And I thought Houston did something interesting and potentially very smart this offseason by getting him another big-time weapon. Nico Collins emerged last year. Tank Dell showed a lot as a rookie before getting hurt. He's back and healthy. But they also went out and traded for Stephon Diggs from the Buffalo Bills. And can he bounce back in Houston? Because things did not end well in Buffalo. I think the final 10 games of last season, he averaged like 44 yards per game. He just did not look like that dominant receiver we had been accustomed to seeing with Josh Allen over the last several years. I personally don't think he's an elite player anymore. But the beauty is Nico Collins has emerged. If Diggs can just be kind of a high-end number 2 with Tank Dell in the mix as well, then this passing offense is going to be very, very hard to stop. Like this offense with Bobby Slowick calling the plays, Stroud slinging the pill, and with a good offensive line, you got weapons all over the place. So I think Houston has a really good chance to not only be the favorites to win the AFC South, but to potentially do some big damage in the postseason. And that's kind of where I stand. I think DeMeco Ryans in 1 year showed a lot. He's a culture setter coming from a Shanahan coach team in San Francisco. The defense is going to be solid at worst. They add Danielle Hunter to pair with Will Anderson. I think their back seven's pretty solid, especially at corner. They're pretty good there. So if Stroud takes that next step, takes another jump, again, not only do I think this team is the favorite in a tough division, I think this division could be sneaky tough, but I think a true AFC title contender, a team that could get to the AFC Championship game, and if things go right, then have a chance to win it, especially if they could get home field advantage. So I'm high on the Texans. I can't wait to see what they have in store for 2024. Are the Indianapolis Colts the biggest wild card team in the NFL entering this season? Because I think they are. Let's talk about the Colts here on Verts. AFC South littered with talent. The Texans, Colts, Jags, even the Titans all could be pretty good. And I think the Colts are the biggest wild card. And I think the reason is their quarterback is a complete unknown. I think Anthony Richardson is the biggest boomer bust QB we've seen in a long time. Probably since Josh Allen, and that obviously boomed for Buffalo. He's been awesome. I think he's the second best quarterback in the league after Patrick Mahomes. Richardson only played in 4 games last year, but you saw the upside, the potential, the flashes were certainly there before he suffered that collarbone injury. Now he's back entering year 2. I think to a certain extent you have to kind of view him as an extended rookie just because he didn't play a ton last year. He had limited playing time in college too. Like he's still pretty raw. but the guy is 6'5", 250, can run in the 4.4s. The question is, can he be a legit starting quarterback? Can he be a big enough threat as a consistent thrower to really put the fear into defenses? Because I think teams definitely are concerned about how good this guy could be, but there's just simply too much of an unknown at this point, both in the NFL and for us on the outside looking in. I just think there's a big question mark there. I will say this, Quentin Nelson, who's been there for a long time, who played with Andrew Luck, all-pro caliber offensive guard, potentially a Hall of Famer, said this about Richardson earlier in the offseason. I thought this quote was pretty significant. He said, he's an absolute freak. He's weighing in after practice at like 250 pounds. He can launch the ball and be accurate with it too. So those are pretty strong words from a high character and high level player with this franchise and in this league, again, who's played with Andrew Luck. He knows what good quarterback play looks like. And do I expect him to not have his quarterbacks back? Of course not, but doesn't have to go above and beyond either. Like, this is a pretty strong endorsement from Quentin Nelson, a player I have a lot of respect for. And look, I think the Colts have a lot of talent, man. They go get A.D. Mitchell in the draft, who slid to round 2. They already have Michael Pittman Jr., Jonathan Taylor, Alec Pierce on offense. Nelson is still on the offensive line, which is pretty good. Some defensive talent. They drafted Latu out of UCLA, who I thought was the best pure pass rusher in this draft. Some questions in the secondary a little bit, but Buckner is still there. I think the Colts have a chance to be pretty damn good. And I really like Shane Steichen. I think he's proven that he can get a lot out of his quarterbacks. The year Jalen Hurts almost won the MVP and almost won the Super Bowl in 2022, Shane Steichen was calling the plays. That's what got him the job in Indianapolis, and he had big influence on drafting Anthony Richardson. Richardson goes down, gets the best out of Gardner Minshew in his poor throw in the flat away against the Texans late last season to winning the AFC South with Gardner Minshew. Shane Steichen knows offense. Shane Steichen knows high-level quarterback play, and if anybody can unlock the potential that is Anthony Richardson, a freak athlete with a rocket arm, I think Steichen is the guy to do it. Whether or not that happens, we'll see. But for those reasons, I do think this is the biggest wildcard team in the NFL, because if things do click, not only could the Colts potentially win the division, are they like a sneaky team that can make a run? If Anthony Richardson clicks and is the real deal, does anybody want to play that guy in December with his physicality and mobility? It's a big projection, but again, I think Steichen has a chance to really unlock this guy. The pressure is on the Jacksonville Jaguars entering 2024, and I think when you look at the AFC South like we're doing here on 4 Verts, the Jags look like a team that this could be a make-or-break type of season. They're looking to bounce back after a disappointing finish to last year. I think they were, 8-4, finished 9-8. Trevor Lawrence got banged up, so that played a role. But the pressure's on now, and the pressure really ramps up when you pay your franchise quarterback, especially when that player hasn't fully met expectations. I'm not saying Trevor Lawrence hasn't been good, but has he been number 1 overall pick? We're going to give you $55 million per year to match Joe Burrow as the highest paid quarterback in the league on an annual basis good. I would say pretty clearly he has not lived up to that at this point in time. So they're paying him, expecting him to play better than he has. You look at his past 2 years. His rookie year, it's kind of a wash. It was the Urban Meyer disaster. His first year with Dougie P in 22, it's pretty good. 25-8 touchdown interception ratio, 4,100 yards, accurate. Last year, the accuracy was still there from a percentage standpoint, but the turnovers crept up, touchdowns went down. He played through an ankle thing, so I think that played a role, but they kind of had a mini collapse, man. 8-4 to 9-8 and missing out on the division and the playoffs. That was not what we expected out of Jacksonville after the year before. They surprised us, won the division, and won a playoff game in a wild comeback over the Chargers. They took a step back last year, and now the pressure really ramps up not only on Lawrence, but I think more so on Doug Peterson. Because, look, regardless of what happens this year, Trevor Lawrence isn't going anywhere. They're tied to him for at least the next 3 seasons. Like, at minimum, he's here through 2026. Unless it's just so unbelievably bad and they have to Russell Wilson him, but I don't think that's going to happen. If things go sideways, if things go south, Doug Peterson is the one who's going to have to answer for that. And the Jags have invested heavily into this team with Lawrence, with skill talent, with defense. They have some big contracts on this roster, and if this team underwhelms, is around 500, or if misses the playoffs altogether, there's a chance Peterson could get fired. Like, he's got to win this year and at least be a playoff team. Now, if they go 9-8, 10-7, and miss the playoffs by somewhere tiebreaker, okay, like, yes, he could certainly be back, but if they continue to go backwards, if they go like 7-10 this year, and by the way, the division is tougher, the Texans and Colts are very formidable, and I don't think the Titans are a joke, then I definitely could see the Jags pivoting after this year. I think the pressure is on Jacksonville more than any other team in this division. If Tennessee sucks, doesn't matter. It's a first-year head coach. They'll reset at quarterback. If the Texans take a step back, they're not making a change. Like, Stroud won Rookie of the Year last year. They made the playoffs and won a playoff game. Even if they go backwards, D'Amico and CJ aren't going anywhere. The Colts, Steichen has shown he can make it work with, not the best talent. I don't think anything would happen where he would get fired. The pressure is on Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence to deliver like they've been paid to do here in 2024. If they don't, some major changes could come in that building, and that would probably start with the head coach. Are the Tennessee Titans a dark horse team in the AFC and in the AFC South this year? I think there's at least a scenario where we look up in mid-October and we're like, we may have slept on the Tennessee Titans. I think there's some real talent on this team. Now, there's certainly some question marks. I think you have to look at the head coach first, Brian Callahan, who spent the last 5 years as the Bengals OC, but he did not call plays. That was Zach Taylor. He gets the job. I did like the move. Normally, I'm not a let's bring in your family and your buddies to come coach with you, but his dad, Bill Callahan, is one of the more respected offensive line coaches in the history of this sport, and that's just a good resource as a first-time head coach, and he's going to help this offensive line that's gone through some tough years, but they've added talent there. J.C. Latham, Skoronski the year before, so I think that group could be sneaky solid up front. So Callahan, while he's a question mark, you bring him in from an offensive system, which I like in Cincinnati. But I kind of look at another question mark in Will Levis as similar to the Davis Mills situation a couple of years ago, where the Texans were like, all right, we're going to roll with Davis Mills, but if it doesn't go poorly, we're just going to draft a quarterback. And that's what they did with C.J. Stroud. Now, I think the difference here is a couple of things. One, I think Levis flashed some big-time things last year at times. Very inconsistent, but he flashed. And two, I think he's got a lot more to work with than Mills had a couple of years ago. Will Levis has two legit receivers in DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley. Now they lose Derrick Henry, so more is going to be on Levis's place. But they add Tony Pollard, who can catch the ball out of the backfield. So I do think Levis is going to have to show some consistency. And if he's kind of erratic, kind of all over the place, which at times he was last year, I could see Tennessee being like, hey, we have a pretty decent roster. Let's go draft a quarterback. So I don't think they view Levis as like, hey, we're going to give this thing 2 or 3 years. Like, go play well this year, otherwise we're going to make a change. Took you in the second round. Different head coach now. It's not like they're locked down to Will Levis. But again, they've got some talent. They made 2 big additions to the roster. Calvin Ridley on the offense, cornerback L'Jarius Sneed on the defense. There's some intriguing young talent here. Like, I don't think the cupboard is dry in Nashville. I think it's a tough division. I think on paper they're clearly like the team that most people are going to pick to finish last in the AFC South. But they're not like some 2-15. Like, this isn't Carolina from last year. Like, they could win 7 games and still finish last. And it wouldn't shock me if they pushed to be a 500-ish team. I think it's going to be tough for them to win the division or something like that. I'm just not a huge Will Levis guy. But I think he's talented enough where they're probably going to beat some people that they shouldn't. Like, they beat the Dolphins in that crazy late game finish last year where they scored 2 touchdowns in the final 3 minutes and Levis got red hot. Like, you're going to see moments like that where he looks like the real deal. Unfortunately, I think you're going to see moments where it's like, dude, who are you throwing to? What is that decision? I think he'll kind of be up and down all over the place. But they've given him competent pieces to work with And if he can find some consistency, I think this team can compete. Jeffrey Simmons is a stud on defense. Snead at corner, like I mentioned, is a stud. So they've got some real star power on this team. It really comes down to the new coach and the new quarterback as to whether or not they can be a team that entering December, it's like, okay, they're at least still in the wild card hunt. We'll have to wait and see. So my official AFC South predictions are this. I think the Texans win the division. I'm high on Houston this year. They're loaded offensively. If Tunsil can stay healthy up front, a really good blindside protector for C.J. Stroud, who I expect to continue to take strides. I think the Colts are a wild card team. I think Anthony Richardson, it'll be a little up and down at times, but I think Steichen will kind of reel him in a little bit and play to his strengths like he did with Jalen Hurts and with Gardner Minshew last year. I think they're a wild card team, probably a 10-ish win team. I think the Jags and Titans missed the playoffs. I don't love the vibe in Jacksonville right now. Something feels weird with Doug Peterson. He's obviously won a Super Bowl, but outside of that year, he's kind of been all over the place. First year looked good in Jacksonville, then again they fall apart last year. They pay T-Law big money. Can he live up to it? And then I think the Titans are they're a year or two away. So I see them bringing up the rear. But I think the AFC South as a whole has gone from this division sucks and is the worst in the NFL on paper to top 4 division. When you look at all 8 divisions, I think it's up there. I think the NFC North and AFC North are probably the top 2. After that, the AFC South doesn't have a bad team on paper. So I think it's going to be a fun division. I think Houston wins it. I also think they get a second playoff team in the Indianapolis Colts. That's going to do it for our AFC South preview. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for Verts. We're going to continue to bang out content on a daily basis. If you enjoyed today's show, let us know, and we will do another divisional breakdown soon. We'll probably go NFC South next, so lock in and load up for that. I'm Harrison Graham. We will see you guys next time.